I'll just find something and think, oh yeah, I'll do like a making of.
Darran Jones is the editor of Retro Gamer, a magazine which continues to rewrite the rulebook for games journalism. Still an avid gamer himself, I caught up with Darran for a chat about his career so far.
Basically, I was doing some writing and then somebody just said, you know, have you ever thought about writing for like a video games magazine? So I sent off some submissions to about 6 or 7 websites, IGN, they were big sites, small sites. Basically, they all said, oh yeah, we'd be quite happy to write for you. But I mean, this is going back about 8 years ago now. And but one of them said, well, we'll tell you what, we'll send you some games for free and you can keep them and write those. So it just got to a stage where I was constantly pestering PR saying, oh, you know, can you send us these games? And I think I was on the website in question, GameStyle, for about 9-10 months. When I started, they had something like 200 reviews. By the time I finished, they had close to 1,400. One of my acquaintances, who's sadly no longer with us now, but he was working for Games Team at the time, and he said, well, you know, we've got a job going, why don't you see about applying? And I applied for the job, and I think I initially applied for a staff writer, but they were so impressed with, I guess, the contacts that I built up within the industry in such a short time, that they basically employed me. I started on the news section as news editor. I started on Games TM on issue 4. I became the editor of the retro section by issue 18, and then I worked on it until issue 40 when I went over to Retro Gamer. Right, well, the actual magazine itself, the creation was by another company which is no longer around, called Live Publishing, and the editor of it was a guy called Martin Carroll, really decent bloke actually. The company, for whatever reasons, went under, and while I was at Games TM, I got an email from my old boss who said, oh, you know, how would you fancy working on Retro Gamer? We just bought it, we're looking at bringing it back, and we'd like you to run it. So that was back in 2005, I think. The first issue came out December. It was an absolute nightmare because I had something like 2 weeks to make it, and if you can find an issue 19, read the news section because there is just gibberish in there. It just doesn't make sense. A lot of the stories I was writing at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we got it out though, and it turned out to be really successful, and we're now coming up to we're working on issue 90. So for a niche magazine to be running that long, it's quite an achievement. It's quite typical that when we were there on the way up in the bus, I was basically saying we're not going to win because it's all basically a fix. Because it's mainly voted by PRs and people within the industry, we were just like, yeah, well, they're just going to obviously vote for all the people that have given them good exclusives and that. I think if any other year we hadn't won, I wouldn't have minded, but we'd done so much with the mag that I'd have been absolutely gutted if we didn't win, and we won. So yeah, it was awesome. And again, to beat established magazines like Edge, Games TM, Games Master, and again, considering the type of magazine we are, it's just an amazing achievement. One of the things that we do try and do with Retro Gamer is investigative journalism. So there's a lot of times where we just do stuff where we have to do it off our own backs because PRs won't help you. And the way magazines are set up nowadays is that if there's a news story, it's because they've got it from either another website they've looked at, or a PR has basically given them all the information. Basically, video game journalism in a way is very lazy now because it's all done for you. You've got the information about the press release. You've got all the background work because they've told you about it. Whereas with us, we do it ourselves. And I think that's what makes us stand apart from other magazines because there's nothing else really like us on the shelves at the moment. You know, there's no denying that obviously online media is growing, but again, it's quite interesting. At the GMAs last year, actually, one of the guys there basically made a big deal about, you know, printer's dead. He's like, he's got a big internet, so I won't spare his blushes and won't name him. But yeah, basically, yeah, printer's dead. And one of the things I don't like about the internet at the moment is they're all going down the route of, let's come up with a completely ridiculous headline just to grab your attention and get some hits, and then the actual information we've got is crap, but hopefully you'll forget about that and you'll come back to us anyway. So there's a lot of sensationalism going on at the moment in the on the internet, which I just don't like. And again, basically, the way I look at it, if you make a damn good magazine, people are going to buy it. And the very fact that our readership continues to climb is proof to that. When I started the magazine, I always wanted to be something which was a bit different to the norm, and I wanted something that was more similar to magazines like Mean Machines from the early 90s that Julian Rignall and stuff were working on, because I always try and do the magazine as if you were just down the pub with your mates, just talking, gassing about video games. And we have a very strong relationship with our readership, where we take on a lot of their ideas, and you just want this matey attitude. And again, I think that's part of the reason why the magazine's a success, because we talk with our readers, we don't talk down to them, and in some cases they're actually more knowledgeable than us anyways. When Melanie was pregnant, I was like, right, I'm a dad now, can't play video games anymore. I got rid of everything, got rid of my N64 collection, got rid of I think I had quite a good Mega Drive collection still at the time. I got rid of all of it, and because, you know, you don't do things like that, you don't play Magic the Gathering anymore because you're a grown up. And then obviously your kids come along and you realise that basically they don't impact as much on your life as you think they would. When my, who's now 10, when she used to sleep on my tummy, so you'd have your joypad like that, and she'd be sitting there, and you could just play the games, or you could put her in a car seat and you could just rock it with your foot while you're playing a game. So you learn to adapt. So yeah, it's something I've grown up with, and you know, I'm fully convinced that when I'm 60, 70, I'll still be playing video games.
Game over.
So it's really interesting, because technically I could, you know, providing the sales and everything were okay, I could be doing this gig when I'm 60, because everything is going to get old eventually. So we're already getting to a situation now where the Xbox, PS2, Game Boy, they're all fair game. I reckon another 8 years down the line, if the magazine's still going, the 360 is going to be fair game. So you know, technically it could run and run and run and run. I always joke and say that basically I'll be on Retro Gamer until it's either shut down or I die, whichever one comes first. One of the arguments we get with the magazine is like, you're going to run out of ideas soon. There's only so much you can say about Sonic the Hedgehog. There's only so much you can say about Mario and the Spectrum. The way I look at it is the Spectrum had a good 10 years of life. You know, 10 years, that's like a hell of a lot, well, 1,200 months of a machine where stuff was being written about it. So, no, I think you just set new milestones, really.
Mommy says she can finish work at 11:30, 10 minutes.
Right, well,
With two small children, Darran has plenty of distractions, but he still finds time to give his two girls a lesson in retro gaming, as Capcom's 1989 arcade classic Strider means more to their dad than what meets the eye.
It's basically my favourite game of all time. Mainly because it's amazing, but also back when it first came out, I used to be able to complete it on a credit. I just had loads and loads of people watching, and I was always at school. I was really tiny, wouldn't say boo to a goose, always getting beaten up by people, totally ignored. But when I played this, I was like a king, and that's one of the reasons why it's one of my favourite ever games. Because all of a sudden, people wanted to know what I was doing.
To be honest, that sounds like a soft story from the X Factor.
Well, it is a bit of a soft story, maybe from the X Factor. But it's the truth anyway. But it's the truth.